Welcome to the Dungies project. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at all the pattern pieces we need to make this beautiful little pair of Dungies. So now you're raring to go to make your Dungies and you need to cut out your pattern pieces first. Before you do though, you want to grab yourself a ruler or your tape measure and measure the scale. Make sure this is 5 centimeters or it is 2.5, which is exactly an inch. So I just want to show you something which happens quite a bit, and that is you get one of those tape measures from the market and you measure it and the scale is totally out, as you can see here, right? If I take a more expensive tape measure, you'll find it works. So make sure that you have either a tape measure that works. You can check that by just putting it onto your ruler and check that it's the same measurement, because I've had people before that had a tape measure which was wrong and they were so frustrated. They said, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I'm printing this off and the scale doesn't look right. And you know, so we would be doing loads of things here to find out what was the matter, and it just turned out that actually the tape measure was wrong and everything else was right. Then I'm going to just go away, cut all these out. So I've cut everything out now and we can get going. And usually my patterns have this assembly plan to go with it. And there you can see what goes together. These plans are different for every single size. So on a smaller size, you will have your, say, front piece in 2 pieces. A bigger size might have 3 pieces, and it will be indicated here so that you can see at a glance what goes together and how many pieces you need. And you know, so it's very, very simple to do. So let's have a look at my pattern pieces now. The Dungies are dead easy. You can see we have no seam in the middle. That's because this is on the fold. On the fold is always marked with these arrows here that go to the middle, so you know you'll be cutting it out like that. So on the fold, the fabric is folded over and the pattern piece goes on top, and that applies to both of those, right? And when the front lies on the back here, they're actually the same width for this. Then we've got this coming forward like that. There we go. And we can put the button on either on the top here, or we can do as marked on here. We can put the button in here. We can do both. It doesn't matter which way you do it, right? So that's how this thing will work. And of course, go to the other side. On the front piece, you've also got a marking for the pocket. So that's where the pocket needs to go. And I will explain to you how you position your pocket when we're doing the sewing. Then you've got a mark up here for the button. The important thing is that you choose your button and you see where that button needs to go. And this box here actually is a proper Art Deco, really old. It's from my grand aunt who was born, get this, in 1896. So that's how I remember her. I'll never get rid of this really old box. And so say you find your perfect button. Could be something like this, or maybe something a bit nicer. Hang on, let me just see if I can find a different button. In here, there's a red one there. Let's get some different sizes out. And a smaller one maybe. Let's get a smaller button out. This is my big button box, which I used as a school teacher, and I just let all the students just pick out whichever buttons they want for all their projects. And of course, all the really nice buttons are gone. Okay, so let's say I'm going to put buttons on. Buttons can have all sorts of different sizes. So if I put the small button there, it might look really, you know, poxy, not so nice. If I put the big button there, it's perfect, right? And so the best thing to do is when you're finished and you've made your Dungies is to put a button on the top and then to check where it needs to go. So in this case, this would sit way lower here, the buttonhole, way lower than the cam snap, right? Because the cam snap is much, much smaller, so that can sit higher up. So what I would recommend is when you're finished with your Dungies, you get your buttons out and you just check it. Okay? So that's that. And then on the back, you also have a marking here, which is where you put your cam snap or your button if you wanted to put it on this side, and the same will apply. If you decide that you want to put your buttonhole on this, make sure that it's in the right position. That looks good for your button and for your Dungies. Then on the back you've also got this really funny shape here. So instead of coming out like on the front like this, it comes out. One of the reasons for that was, I didn't always have it like that, because you put in a gusset. And the gusset is what mimics the normal shape that you've got on a trouser. Say you've got, your trousers will always come out kind of like this, won't they? And then like that, so that they fit around the body. Now with a baby, it's got a nappy, so it's even more. But also you want to have these pieces in one, so you need to help yourself because you don't have a seam. That's what the gusset does. The gusset will sit in here, and when it's folded up like this, it will mimic the space that you got with the normal trouser shape. Now if you have got this little protrusion here, it means that you can put your gusset on from that part and then just work around like that, right, to put it in. And it's really simple and really easy because you've got this. You don't need to mark anything. You just cut it out, put it on, sew it together. And I will show you obviously in the video how that works, but it's very, very simple. And it's quite wide, so it gives you a lot of room in here for baby and the nappy. You don't want this to just be sewn on top of each other. A lot of patterns are like this. I do realize that, and my first one, to my shame, was the same. I thought, well, everybody else is doing it like that, I won't put in a gusset. And it was so tight and it didn't look very nice. Exception is when the inner leg is really low, like on harem pants like this, then you don't need a gusset because it's low enough anyway. If you want it to sit really nice like these here, you do need the gusset to help you out. So that's that gusset. Then we've got the pocket, which will go on here, and the pocket is lined with just some cotton fabric. I don't know if you can see it in here. I do that because I found that it was quite difficult with the jersey to fold this over, overlock it, that stretched it, then fold it over, that stretched it, stitching it. What I saw from my testers with the pocket didn't look like mine. If you're a really good seamstress, you don't need to do that. You can maybe just overlock it and then iron it, and it's all good for you. But if you are a beginner and you really want it to look like just like that, then I suggest you do the same. You just have a little piece of cotton, very lightweight if you find it, and you use that to just sew all the way around. Number one, it's much easier to keep the shape like that, and it's also easier to get on to your Dungies, onto the front piece. Then we've got two more pieces, and those are the last pieces before we start sewing. And that is the back piece here, which just fits on there. And then we've got another piece which fits on here, and both of these have also to be cut on the forward. Now what you're going to notice is that the front here goes a little bit lower and it comes a little bit more in. And that's so that when you sew it together and you bring the edges together, this will be slightly short, so it pulls it in, and that means that your facing won't roll out. And whilst this isn't really very important on the Dungies, you know, you will hardly notice it depending on how well you cut out. But if this was a really nice dress, then you absolutely will notice the difference. And I think it's just nice to get into these techniques where they don't matter, so that you can practice them. And the same on the back, a bit lower and a bit lower around here. Those are all the pattern pieces for your Dungies. Now we can move on to our next step and we can cut it out. Are you excited? I sure am. See you there.